Are you surprised? Yeah, I have a video today. I wanted to actually say congratulations because we are halfway through this study together. Today is day 16, and in honor of 16, there was really nothing special I could do other than saying, hey, I'm doing a little extra video. I decided on video instead of podcast just because it's a little more personal, and I know since this Bible study is hosted off of social media, not even face-to-face, not in person, we don't meet in one place, there's over 300 people in this group, that somehow, maybe, you could still feel like you're connecting with me, and then eventually we can come up with little pods and groups and whatnot for small group discipleship, perhaps in this Live Slow Bible study dynamic. But for the purpose of it being halfway through this book, Famous in Heaven and Home, I wanted to jump on here and talk about generosity. Talk about generosity because when I first read this verse, verse 31, verse 20, I'll go ahead and read it to you again so I'm not messing it up. She extends her hands to the poor and she stretches out her hands to the needy. Now, the last part of those, to the poor, to the needy, is what I'm going to focus on during this video. Prior to this, I have always focused on the words extend and stretch because I am a recovering copophobic. Now, if you guys don't know what that is, I wrote a blog about it a couple of weeks ago, and I'll share it with you guys if you want. I know I've shared it a couple of times, but it's the fear of becoming fatigued or exhausted, either mentally or physically, feeling as though you are about to hang by a thread. So I am fearful of exhaustion, but I guess that seems kind of weird since I run my own business. I'm a mom of 2 and 1 on the way. But yes, I know, like, as moms and businesswomen, career women, we are busy and we are extended, but I was fearful of going beyond what my comfort zone was. I was fearful of doing new things and being innovative or supplying new resources and help for my customers and coaches at the fear of losing myself because I have lost myself before in being a workaholic. But this time is so much different. I'm no longer a workaholic, but I wake up and I take my priorities. I'm trying to be like the Proverbs 31 woman, right? I wake up and I manage my priorities, I make my list, and I check it off. And then when my family's together, I'm fully present. So my goal throughout this study, throughout last time's study, throughout my future years as an entrepreneur and working with you guys is that I want to honor my priorities so much so that when I'm plugged in, I'm plugged in. And then when I have family time, I'm unplugged, and I can gloriously be present in any moment. That is what boils down to love fast, live slow. And if I wasn't adamantly pursuing that every single day, I would definitely be hypocritical. Not perfect at it at all, but I know that love fast and live slow is the heart and mission of what I do. And I have such purpose behind that because I feel like it was something that God instilled in my heart. Loving fast is so applicable to the verses that we're going to read today. Living slow is that courage and bravery to grasp onto God's strength and God's power to help you extend farther than you think you can go, to help you stretch farther than you think you can go, is to live slow and say, God, I'm going to bask in what you're offering me here. I'm going to hold on to the purpose you've put in my heart. I'm going to courageously jump into this mission. Jump into being, a part-time mom, part-time worker and full-time mom. Jump into starting this new business. Jump into starting this ministry at my church. Jumping to serving the poor and the needy more. Whatever gifts and talents you have, here's your chance to execute that, and don't be fearful. Don't be like me. Don't be fearful of exhaustion, because if you maintain your priorities, and if your business or your passion or your mission or your work is rooted in purpose, then you are on God's track. Okay, so let's dive in really quick. Sorry, I'm battling a little stuffiness, which is crazy because I'm about to have a wild 2 weeks, or I just got done with the wild 2 weeks when you guys watch this. But the retreats that I have coming up with the events and conferences and whatnot, I'm like, oh, Nick, I can't get sick. So I am drinking lemon water. Actually warmed it up so it's like warm lemonade. That might sound weird to you, but it's super refreshing and it's super great for you because of the way that it balances the acid levels of your body. I digress. If you want to talk to me about why I drink lemon water, you can shoot me an email. But we're going to talk about stretching and extending today in the form of generosity. Now, raise your hand virtually if you have ever driven by and you see a sign. help, food, work for food, money for food, do anything I need help. Okay, that happens. And I have this feeling over me of what's safe. I have my kids in the back. Should I give them $1? What are they going to use the dollar with? And I spoke with my husband about this, and I was like, how can I be generous with like the people on the side of the road begging for money when I, might have just deposited something and I have this cash in my wallet. I'm like, oh, here's $5. Is it safe for me, one, or is it wise for me, two, to roll down a window and give them cash? Well, I feel like that's a discernment in your own heart. Some people are more naturally generous. Some people are more naturally fearful, perhaps, of like the reaction or safety, and I know that might be judgmental, but I think it's a real thing that women particularly need to be aware of. But three, what are they going to use it for? But I want to challenge you this. Your actions to be generous is not dependent on their choices of spending what you give them. Now, right now we're talking about monetary generosity, but eventually we're going to be talking about actions and service in the form of you using your hands and feet for people. But right now, talking about monetary service, it is not your responsibility to know. I mean, you can ask, but if they choose to use the money that you gave them, whether it's to someone on the side of the road, whether it's a missions organization, whether it's somebody at church who can't pay their power bill, whether it's a family member who is struggling right now, it is not your responsibility. Your generosity is not dependent on what they spend it on. Your generosity is from your heart, and it is given to them with a pure heart, and then you have to release it. You can't say, well, my money was spent in vain, so it was pointless. I'm never going to do that again. We have to make sure that we don't base our obedience on whether they're going to be obedient or not. Your obedience is in your lane. Stay in your lane. Be obedient to what God has put on your heart no matter what. But what about being generous and extending and stretching yourselves physically? Not just, when I say physically, it's not like in a workout sense, unless that's something that you are, using as a service tool like I am, but using your gifts and talents and time to serve and extend yourself for the benefit of others. I mean, biblically, we know that to think of others before ourselves is correct. We should take care of ourselves. We should never neglect ourselves, which is what we've already studied. We can't just take care of everybody else and neglect ourselves, because then we're going to be pouring from an empty cup. But I think about the opportunities I have at church, or the hugs that I could give to the student ministry that my husband works with, or the way that I can bring in extra diapers and wipes for my son's preschool, or the assistance that I could provide for my neighbor who, fence also was demolished with Hurricane Irma like ours. And I just think about little things that I could do better, or that I'm not doing well enough, because I look at some of my amazing friends around me locally and what they do for others. I'm like, I can't keep up. I can't do what they do. And I have this limiting belief. I have this limiting belief that I'm only one person, which is true. And I have this guilt. But God doesn't give me that feeling of guilt. God doesn't put guilt in our heart. God puts perhaps conviction or guidance or redirection in our heart, or He elevates truth in our lives to expose that light. But He doesn't put guilt in my heart. So if I see what other people are doing to extend themselves, to stretch themselves, to be that Pinterest mom, and I feel guilty, it's because of comparison. And that's out of pride. So if your guilt is derived or bred from pride, then that is a separate issue that we need to work on, because we have this pride in our heart that we're trying to externally look like them. We're trying to externally look like we have it all together, keep up with the Joneses. And so what my encouragement is for you today, as we are walking through Proverbs 31 verse 20, I'm going to read this verse to you. I know I already read verse 20, but this is from 1 Timothy 6, 17 through 19. It says, command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in God, which richly provides with everything for our enjoyment. Command them to do good, to be rich in good deeds, and to be generous and willing to share. In this way, they will lay up treasure for themselves as a firm foundation for the coming age, so that they may take hold of the life that is truly life. Okay, so if you have the heart to give, the desire to stretch yourself a bit, to become uncomfortable a bit, whether it's with, I know in the last part of this day today, the P31 practice. You guys can see that. There were 3 different areas that the author encouraged us to take action in. And it's to extend and stretch, to give to the needy and to the poor, based on our tithing. Typically, tithing is 10%, but could you do 11% this month? Could you do 12% this month? Okay, think about that. Another area is in your purpose or your business. I know that sometimes we're so focused on the bottom line that things get blurry, and I wouldn't recommend you abandoning your diligence in business decisions, but pray for discernment and display God's character in your calling, and that's going to extend and stretch you a bit, because maybe your business or maybe your work or your job is not rooted in a ministry, but you can use it as a ministry, and that's going to stretch you a bit, so be aware of that. Third thing, she said, motherhood. Oh, yes, it does stretch and extend me. And the fact that I could be a mother and teach my children how to be generous to needy, to be generous and stretch themselves, to encourage verbally instead of use their words to put other kids down, to help those who don't have as much, or to even teach my child that they don't need to be a spoiled brat. Today, my 5-year-old had a 20-minute tantrum because we wouldn't give him 3, I don't even know what it was, 3 graham crackers instead of 2. We said 2, he wanted 3. Once we said 2, we had to stick to it. So we had a tantrum. He was fussing, okay? So we were rewarding him. We love graham crackers, but we were rewarding him for having a dry pull-up last night. It was amazing. We were excited. We said 2 because he was getting all these other things for breakfast and blah, blah. And we just had to say, Leland, are you not thankful for what you have? Some people don't get any breakfast, but you get this, 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 and this. And this is your choice. This is the treat. This is the reward you wanted, and we can give you this. We ended up giving him 1 Oreo instead of 2 graham crackers. And so the process was painful. But I just looked at him and I thought, you were created by God, but your sinful nature probably mimics mine in the way that I throw tantrums, or I fuss, or I whine about what I don't have. But we need to let go of that and just say, God, thank you for what you have given me. God, thank you for teaching me to be grateful, or teaching me to be more aware of what's around me and the blessings that I have. So I today do not want to go to God and cry because he didn't give me 3 graham crackers and he only gives me 2, because he knows overall the best purpose and the best reason for why he only gave me this instead of this. So financially, if you guys are at a point where you're like, I can't extend, I can't stretch, I can't give to those who are in need, rearrange your budget a bit. See if there's anything that you're doing. See, are you tithing 10%? If you're tithing 10% and that's stretching you, that's obedient. If you are extending your efforts and time to think about other people outside of you, and that could be in the form of serving your home, serving your house, keeping up with the house, that's hard, or outside of your house, getting creative, serving your neighborhood, inviting neighbors over to eat dinner with you, even on the weeknights that you are tired, maybe that would be helpful just to build those relationships. I could go on and on for examples in my head of what I have done or what I need to do, but I feel like you and God can have this conversation this morning and just say, God, what do you want me to do to extend myself to give to the needy and to stretch myself to give to the poor, to be generous, to be loving, to love fast today, and to live slow enough to listen to you as you're teaching these lessons. Okay? You guys are awesome. Happy day 16. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, God bless. Love you. I'm going to pray for you. Okay?